So I'm doing this in my car today because I don't want to bug my roommates who are home right now currently. Usually I do a end of the year list type deal where I talk about like my favorite records this year. And this year I didn't listen to a ton. Like there's still a list. I'll probably just like post it on my story or something like that. Nothing crazy. But a lot of what I was listening to this year just happened to be from people who I'm friends with, people who I play shows with a lot, people from this area, from my area in like St. Pete, Florida, but also generally for most of the rest of Florida. There's a lot of bands that pop up on this list and artists from around Florida. But these were just 15 of my favorite records to come out this year. Yeah, this one's lengthy. This is just over 2 hours of music that Joe / Gashblaster put out this year. It's basically like it's the one EP he put out like earlier in the year, plus an hour and a half of other stuff that he's been toying around with. And it's a listen that I would recommend in bits and pieces. It's like you can jump in kind of wherever and get the feel. It's a very linear electronic record with fun little quirky vocal bits that jump out here and there, and a lot of vocoders, a lot of little fun glitchy effects. It's just a really colorful, not too serious little electronic project that always just kind of got me grooving a little bit this year. This is a really short but volatile, aggressive, like 15 minutes of music that I found myself really enjoying. That came out not too long ago. Ashton, Ed209, is a close friend of mine, and I've seen her evolve over the years with her own solo music as well as her and other projects and whatnot. And what interested me the most was just how much more stuff like Cybergrind takes the focal front in her project as the years go on. Because her first project, Teenage Crust Violence, was more of like just a power violence kind of thing, just full instrumentation. But then you jump cut to this split, and it's just all these MIDI drums and MIDI guitars, and everything just sounds like extremely robotic, but still full of primal aggression. And I feel like she's really starting to develop a very interesting sound of her own that kind of takes the Cybergrind sound and blend it more with bits of power violence, bits of emo violence, bits of like sasscore and stuff like that, kind of an albatrossy kind of sasscore moments here and there. And yeah, I really liked her half of the split. I didn't return to Genophobic Perversion's side as much, but I thought it was very interesting. It's kind of a gore grind little release. It's very guttural and brutal, but with this very dark, murky, grotesque kind of sound to it. Very, very guttural, growly vocals throughout. Their side starts off with a sample of Dracula Flow, which I thought was fun, because that's been one of my favorite videos of the year. But yeah, I thought that was a very nice split. Not too long, doesn't outstay its welcome, just in and out. Great little release. Number 13, Awake Ending by Liquid Pennies. Now, the fellas, I think, tend to go towards these very long, expansive psych jams and their records previous. And I feel like this one, they were tightening some things up, working on dynamics a little bit, and testing the water with this little 4-track, 20-minute EP that just kind of like try to throw a couple new ideas out there. I saw them experimenting with a little bit more like folk and stripping back their dynamics a little bit in different ways, and not so thrashy bashy fuzzy noise the entire time. I mean, they never really did that too much, but this one I feel like they were trying to work on restraining themselves a little bit more to let the explosions kind of feel a little bit bigger. So, in other words, it feels like they were toying with a bit more post-rock on this release as well. Felt like they were maybe trying to take some things from the Tortoise playbook or the Godspeed playbook or Explosions in the Sky playbook, but apply their noisy brand of psych rock on top of it. In an Ebb, I feel like exemplifies this what I'm talking about a little bit, like, perfectly. It's like just shy of 8 minutes, and it just takes a long time to get there, but when it gets there, it just feels oh so gratifying. It feels like if it was 2 minutes and then it got there wouldn't be that tense buildup. So I feel like they're working a lot more with tension on this release, and it played out pretty well for them. This is a very short little EP, just shy of 10 minutes, 4 tracks, and this might be the loudest band I've seen in the area. They are just volatile, loud, and in your face, but their songs are measured. They feel like kind of primitive early Sonic Youth, but with like more hints of jangly indie rock in there. But they are not afraid to explore the weird crevices of abstract art rock. I thought the EP kicks off really well with Warm Frame's theme song, which is a fun little 30-second tester for the record, and it just goes off without a hitch. It's super quick, short, simple, catchy, and I love that. And then it just kind of blossoms into this nice little indie rock experience that measures itself between avant-garde rock and noise rock and noise punk and bits of no wave here and there, sprinkled in very nicely, and closes out with their song Lulu, which is, I think, probably their catchiest song to date. It's just, the guitar hook just always kind of seems to stick around in my mind a little bit. But yeah, this new Warm Frames I thought was a very nice little short, brief EP, and I would love to see them flesh things out into a full length sometime soon. At first, I thought I wasn't going to dig into it as much as I thought I would, because I tested out their first track. It felt a little kind of grungy, and I kind of left a lot of my grunge days back in high school and whatnot, but I just kind of like really started to listen to that track a little bit more and realized there's a lot under the hood that was very interesting. It was these long passages of instrumentals in this 3-minute song. It took like 2 minutes for the verse to actually kick in, and it was this really cool psyche Sonic Youth feeling burst of aggression right out the gate that dissolves itself into this very kind of dreamy atmospheric verse that really, over time, really showed itself more to me. And when the record came out, I saw them play the whole thing live, and I was just stunned by how tight they were and how just great of a songwriter Tristan is. He's just an incredible songwriter. It's like the verse structures and the chorus structures, everything's very catchy. The lyrics are very well groomed. It feels like he spent a lot of time with these things. And I was just really enamored with how quality his songwriting was and how tight the band was, live and on record. It just felt like everything was in its perfect right place, and it felt like a very great debut to show themselves. Obviously, I'm a bit of a slowcore buff. I love that kind of stuff. I love these really syrupy, depressive songs that just, you feel every weight of every beat. It's like, it's just, everything's so dragged out, but to this very satisfyingly wallowing in your own mess kind of way. There's something about it that feels so exhaustive, but like in a very cathartic way. And Chlorine Fields, from the first time I played with them and saw them play, I really was taken aback by how well they captured that ethos that I really just tend to love out of slowcore records. Kersey's vocals are very soft and elegant, and the backing band that they have is just magnificent. They're the three guitars that just kind of all weave in between each other. Nick, or also known as Corporate Guest, adds some tasteful little synth leads on top sometimes. Clayton Pendergrass's very interesting drumming, but very simple. It's very simple, but there's always something there that kind of catches my ear. And speaking of Clayton, this is the first project he ever mixed and recorded and mastered himself. And it really shows that he had a good head on his shoulders to do this. It feels like he took his time with this release, because just every song just sounds very nice and natural, and nothing bleeds into itself too much, which can be a tall order when it comes to Kersey's soft, pillowy vocals, and also three guitars kind of bouncing around each other. However, with all of this going on, Clayton managed to make the mix feel not suffocated. It made it feel very natural, and everything had enough space in it, which is a very hard task to pull off, and I think he pulled it off very well. And as for the EP, I just thought it was another set of stunning tracks from them that really kind of hit me where it matters most. This is a throttling 20-minute power violence, hardcore, grindcore experience. It's just flying off the cuff with energy. The drums are mixed so punchy and primitive and aggressive, and they have two guitarists that are just exploding from the pages with distortion and aggression and energy. This record was 19 minutes of just fury, and it kind of like blew my hair back when I first heard it, and it felt as explosive and as visceral as it was hearing these songs live throughout the year. Fantastic release. 3 blistering cuts that just kind of blew my freaking mind when I heard them. It's just this great amalgamation of early 2000s metalcore before it kind of shit the bed and became like the worst genre known to man. Blends of that with power violence, grindcore, bits of screamo here and there, metallic hardcore. Just a kick-ass showing from this band, just coming right out the gates with a phenomenal demo. This also shows Ashton, her solo project, Ed 209, which I talked about a little bit earlier, on drums. And this record just really kicked my ass. I saw a couple of their first shows, really impressed, really liked what they were doing. The vocalist, I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time she's done vocals in a project. And she just kicks ass. She just has this very, very demanding, intense voice that just kind of like sends chills. It's fantastic. But 3 songs, 6 minutes, just wastes no time at all and grabs your attention immediately. Give this thing a listen. I love this demo, but holy crap, is the new EP something to look out for. So when it comes out, definitely give it a listen. But the demo will probably already convince you to do that anyway, because it is 4 songs, 10 minutes, and it wastes no time at being a noisy, brutal, aggressive, dirty, lo-fi, nasty, grotesque listen. This thing, it just comes out of the gate with pure feedback, guitars that both feel shoegazy with their spaciousness and ferocity that they're being played at, and speed, it just feels so washed out, but there's just this bite of like metallic harsh noise that just coats the whole guitar tracks. Drums, Sasha's playing very primal, aggressive drums on this record. Talo's voice is fierce, it's shrieky, it's just really gnarly. this whole band is just kicking on all cylinders right out the gate with a just crazy demo that just kind of felt like it kind of reminded me of Piss Jeans, but with less finesse, if that's even possible. It's like, this is just the sloppiest, noisiest, most cathartic demo release of the year. It's fantastic. I'm drunk, such an enjoyable listen from front to back. It's another brief one. It's very short, 5 tracks, 13 minutes, something like that. And it was just really interesting to hear this blend of shoegaze and bits of kind of grunge a little bit here and there. I'm not a big grunge guy anymore, but these songs were really kind of pulling something out of me that I thought was really interesting. A lot of C-sharp tuning that's just very low and kind of guttural, and this is all the solo project of Emma, the drummer of Graves, which we will be talking about in a minute. This is her solo project, and there are so many great songs on here. It's just each song has a great hook, has a really nice sound palette to it, especially the song Disappear, which I had probably constant rotation throughout the year on this thing. There's just this incredible guitar hook in there that just sinks my freaking heart, man. I just can't get enough of this song. The vocal melodies are incredibly catchy on it and very, very heartfelt. This is a very heartfelt release. And I definitely recommend it if you're into shoegaze and dream pop or bands like Nothing and Title Fight. This is going to be right up your alley. This is showing the band at their most refined, if that's even a word that can be applied to such an angular, dissonant, and unwelcoming band. This record is just, I think it's about 40 minutes, and it just flies right by with all of these very, very angular but interesting touches of guitar noise and freeform saxophone dancing on top, and just an incredibly tight rhythm section. The drummer and bassist on this thing are just laying it down. They are the glue that's holding this whole thing together. No matter how much the guitars or the saxophone or Cam's just bellowing voice is trying to throw these songs way out of whack and throw them out into craziness, the bass and drums will just refuse to let that happen and force you to somehow groove to these incredibly angular, dissonant songs. It's very akin to bands like DNA and Lydia Lunch's projects and like early no wave that has this sense of funk to it. It's funky no wave, kind of James Chance, where it's trying to take these songs that would be in the rawest sense very danceable and groovy and catchy, and just throwing just cacophonous madness on top to kind of make your head scratch, but you still can't help but groove along. And this record really exemplifies everything they've been working on for the past decade, refined into one great 40-minute listening experience. This is easily one of my favorite records of the scene this year and just overall this year. This thing, I can't stop coming back to it because I always just kind of wanted a little bit more the next time. I want to fade away, but a promise is a promise and forever is forever after all. This is one of the most colorful, joyful listening experiences I've gotten all year. 90% of the time, the CD copy that I have of this album lives in this car. It's always here. It's always in this car because each song is so catchy, has a really, really beautifully lo-fi and amateur, but just very well executed sound palette. Bits of clarinet here and there, these bells and whistles, and Pony's very interesting textured guitar effects sprinkled about in its proper placements, and Pony and Rabbit's voice just very, very well complement each other in a very nice, amateurish, but like, you know, the kind of amateur that's like got so much charm just oozing from it. It's like the two of these people just work so well together. I can't get enough of this record. I'd like to hear more from both of them together. Their separate solo stuff is fantastic on its own, but them together is really something special. And I just really found myself coming back to this record more and more and more each year. More and more songs just kept getting stuck in my head. Apple Soup, the single, was just a great showing from the project, and it's not too long of a listen. It's just like 30 some odd minutes. It's a very brief listen, but every song just comes at it with a new great hook and some great writing and some great color palette, texture, painting. It's just a great listen. It's just a stunning set of 2 tracks from each band that just kind of took everything that they put out this year and flipped it on its head. Both bands, the Opposition Dolls EP that came out this year, that was on this list, and I had to take it off so I could make room for this. And I thought it was great, but these songs that they put on this, with the production quality, it's lo-fi, but it's like everything hits just as hard as it needs to hit. Just a set of great songs that just thoroughly impressed me and kind of knocked the whole EP out of the water. Same thing with Graves, except Graves were on a very different sound. Their debut album came out this year as well, and it sounded phenomenal. It was very kind of like title fighty, kind of hardcore with shoegaze and little bits of screamo here and there, but it was just a fantastic little release. They came out with these just blistering emo violence screamo cuts that just knocked my freaking socks off. And I saw them play their side of the EP the night that they recorded it. They went out and played a show, and I went to that show, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was not the same band I saw just a couple months ago. They really came in with a whole new sound. This record took everything from the first record and refined it down to its purest, best qualities and jammed it into a record that was not only just incredible front to back with incredible bits of like genre switch ups that kind of left your head scratching, but it all made sense together. And also the record itself was just incredibly cohesive. Each cut just felt like it just poured right into the last one, just right after one after one after one after one. Each song felt like it complemented each other so well. The structure of this album is just really impressive. And the fact that they were able to fit so much into 38 minutes is just wild to me. This band is just so consistent and so good. The colors and the timbres and everything is just so vibrant about this band. Sawyer has this one guitar trick that he likes to pull out, and every single time it sounds awesome. It's this little canyon delay pedal that he likes to step on and like fuck with the delay time. And it doesn't sound like a normal delay oscillation spot where it just goes or whatever. This thing just has this very visceral, eats the entire mix, laser beam sound effect that comes out of it, and it always just punctuates these little points throughout the record so well. But the genre switch ups that this band pulls out throughout the record is just crazy. It's like in one moment there'll be like this little art funk thing, art rock thing, and in the next they will be this blistering, screaming visceral post-punk thing on tracks like Bloodspring. And they even let the drummer have a song. And it's one of the best songs on there. Me Urchin. It's such a good tune. And William just knocks it out of the park. He's got this very ghoulish, evil-sounding voice that's, like, very charming. The sounds that they utilize in this record are just so full of life. Z will bust out the saxophone throughout the record quite a bit, and his saxophone playing is just incredible. He's just like an incredibly insane saxophone player with all these overtones and like bits of free jazz stuff. His saxophone playing is so just eclectic but impressive, and it adds this crazy wild element to these like otherwise pretty catchy pop songs encased in this post-punk art rock feeling. That is exemplified a lot in the closing cut in Living Rain, which was one of my favorite songs. They've been playing that since I first caught them before they put anything out. And it's this herky-jerky art rock, almost kind of math rock at times feeling jam that just descends into these psychedelic odysseys towards the back end and bursts into this aggressive, primal, brutal conclusion to the record. And it just leaves my jaw on the floor. This thing was just stunning for a follow-up. Now, Novely is a very interesting band because their rhythm section comes from Chlorine Fields, which is a band we talked about a little bit earlier. And my friend Clayton, who's their drummer, we were like practicing jamming some little stuff like a year ago, and told me, hey, I got this new band, Novely, and we've been toying with these things, and yeah, it's pretty good. And then like maybe like a month later sent me a link, and it was like, here's our EP, check it out, it just came out today. And I was like really taken aback. It was just some of the best screamo I have heard like anywhere throughout the scene all year. The songs on that EP were stunning. They were great. They were full of dynamics, and Chris's guitar playing was always hooky. There was always a guitar part that like I latched onto incredibly strong. Clayton's drumming is just all over the place, but exactly where it needs to be at any time. It's just his parts are very unique and interesting, and yet they don't feel like they're flying too far off the map, but still remain kind of spastic and crazy. And everything complements the songs very well. Michael's vocals are pretty unique. They're not like your typical screamo vocals where it's very harsh. It's like his are more shouty, and he has a very unique voice that I can't put my finger on, but I haven't heard that before. He's got a very unique voice. And that leads me to another thing, which is Michael's design for this band is so disciplined. Every bit of their aesthetic, every bit of their album covers, their merch, hell, their Instagram posts, they're all artwork made by Michael, and they're all just so simple and tasteful, but just incredibly eye-catching. They have an incredible look to them. And that brings me to this record, which has, by far, their best album cover of the two projects they put out. This album cover kicks ass. It looks so good. The record takes everything that they built on the EP and gives it this very dark, moody feeling. At points, it's a lot more reserved and feels more like akin to post-rock or slowcore more than it does screamo. But then it will bubble up in this tense fury into this cathartic explosion. And the record, again, it's brief, 24 minutes, 8 tracks, but each song, like the last one, it just, like The Tilt, they weave into each other so well. Everything feels full and conclusive about this project. There's not a single moment of this entire record that feels out of place. Everything flows into one another. You feel like it's one of those great records that you can put on and not realize the whole album has played until you get to the last track and you're like, damn, we're here already. I thought we were on track 2. It just, everything blends together, but not in like a dull way where it just feels like, oh yeah, every song blends together. It's like everything builds on itself. The track placement here is fantastic. It's every song feels like it goes into the next one and shows a new idea that works well with the previous track. This thing just has these dark, brooding guitar parts that just like send like knives into me. It's just phenomenal. So yeah, album of the year for me for this area. This thing took everything that I loved about that EP and fleshed it out more and added all these dark, brooding elements that gave it its own interesting sound to it. It's a stunning release. I loved this thing. All right, there you go. Those are my favorite 15 records that came out this year in the scene, from people who I know, people who I don't know, and others in between that I kind of know. Regardless, these are all phenomenal releases. No matter if it's number 1 or number 15, you should check them all out equally. If you're curious as to what I might have contributed this year as far as music, I had a Brain Power release, which is like this ambient project. I had a record come out. I also had my second Board Operator album come out this year, which I'd say is much better than the last one. You can hear some of that here. And also, I play drums on in this band called Gensu, and we dropped our debut single maybe a month or two back, which you can hear here. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys check out these records, and yeah, I guess until next year.